Hi, everybody. I'm Angela Bixby, Energy Intuit, coming to you today with a second half of December, mid-December energy update. Really quickly, if you're new here, thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel. I deeply appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a like and share it with someone whom you think may benefit from it. I am a psychic medium. I've been doing this work as a second career since I landed in psychic school in 2010. So I'm a psychic medium, I'm a consciousness mentor, I'm a trance channel. I teach psychic development. My work here, my mission on this planet is to help connect as many people to their intuition as possible at this time as we're going through this great awakening on our planet. So that's who I am. And I began doing these energy updates twice a month, bi-monthly in September. Spirit was like, it's time to channel on YouTube. So I will not be channeling live today, but if you stick with me with any sort of with any period of time, you'll start to see not only my neurodivergent qualities, but how sometimes when I'm delivering something that I've written down the channeling from spirit as I'm offering it to you guys. Sometimes I do kind of go into channeling, so you might see some of that on my face. I have very strong claircognizance, clear knowing, or clairgnosis, it's also known as well as clear empathy. I have all of the clairs. I'm living proof that they're developable, but the clairgnosis is what comes through often when I'm doing a video and I'm not channeling, but I'm offering channeled messaging. It's almost like I'm still channeling. So without further ado, we will get going. So, Spirits presented three different qualities of the energy for the second half of December, and then three different coping approaches for us. So, here we go. What they brought through first was that the energies of December, and specifically the second half of December that we're headed into, are rife with both completion and new beginning energies, and many layers of them. So, think of what it feels like to be in the month of December, to be layering on the holiday season on top of our existing schedules this month, right? Everybody experiences that differently. And it's sort of like an extra layer of things that we're all considering. Well, now extrapolate that out to having competing unseen energies, adding layers and layers and layers into our lives in December, especially the second half, just like the holidays kind of does. And you can imagine what that feels like for all of us, right? Um, it can feel like more activity, more energy surging through you, more tiredness, more excitement, right? So all of these things are being experienced with these energies. And this first energy quality that Spirit's having me bring forward is this one of lots and lots of kind of a cacophony, right, of all of the energies. So that's going on. So if you're noticing that, then hopefully it just says to you, yes, I'm in alignment with the energies. I'm feeling into some of what Angela's channeling about. So the coping approach that Spirit offered was to ground. Now, let me lean out of the messaging here for a second and say, again, if you've been with me for any sort of time, you'll know that one of my hallmarks is grounded guidance. And I teach in psychic development that we have to be grounded in our physical bodies in the 3D in order to really properly divine, right, from our higher energy centers and from our psychic skills. So grounding is a tenet in my teaching, a really foundational tenet in my teaching. And so know that. So some of these might sound familiar, and they did come straight from spirit. I want you to know that. So back to the coping approach, ground. Staying grounded this month is critical, as Spirit said it, according to Spirit. We have stepped into new levels of what is going on with our planet's atmosphere, and these ratcheted up energies hold more potential for accidents and things that can happen to us when we're less grounded. Spirit gives the analogy for if you're going outside to ground, and if you're walking to a field in a less populated or more rural area, if you stumble along the way, I hope you don't stumble and I hope you don't hurt yourselves. It would be likely less consequential because you're in a rural area, you're out in nature, etc. Now, if you are ungrounded and you walk outside in a busy city, being wobbly could land you up in traffic on a busy street if you stumble, right? Like the potential consequences of stumbling or being ungrounded in a really highly populated, densely populated area, if you live in a city, could be more dangerous for you. And so bringing this analogy back into the present moment in the personal, Spirit's encouraging us to ground more and more often if we are embroiled in and surrounded by intense energies this month, and as we close out this month in particular, right? So I'm doing mid-December energies, and we're talking about the second half today on 12/12/2025. But Spirit's also referencing in this message, in this coping approach that I just offered, the whole month, and yet we're talking about the second half. Just making that clear because I know I'm saying both things. Humans are becoming more, let's see, uh, back into the intro here. The humans are becoming more multidimensional. So this is the second quality of the energy for the second half of December. Humans are becoming more multidimensional and may not realize it. More people are experiencing timeline slips, um, and also experiencing more timelines simultaneously, but they may not realize what's going on. And so this can bring through time slips, which time slips go in both directions. And I've had them happen this way this week, where you swear that you look at the clock and you swear that it said, say, 12 o'clock. Um, a minute ago, and you look at it and it says 12:20, and it's hard to compute because you really feel as if only a minute has passed, right? And yet 20 have passed, and it can go in the other direction. You can feel like you've been working on a task for a really long time, and you look at the clock and only a minute has passed. Those are just some examples of time slips and sort of when we drift into different spaces and time becomes less of a measure of what we're experiencing, is how I would explain it from kind of a quantum physics perspective. But know that more of those happening are evidence of all of this energy, that we're experiencing, and us becoming more multidimensional is what this is tied to. The other thing that this can look like is and I've had a lot of these this week too, Mandela effect experiences. So let me explain what the Mandela effect is. If you don't know it, it's named after Nelson Mandela, where there's a phenomena that came to being when he was in prison. And I forget when he was in prison. Please forgive me for not having done that research ahead of time. Um, 15, 20, 25 years ago, a little in the recent past. And while he was in prison, there was a large part of the population that could have sworn on their life practically, that they read that in the paper that he died, or they heard on the news that he died in jail. And then there was like the other half of the population, roughly a huge body of people that knew he didn't, right? But this phenomena of people experiencing a different reality around this man, that's how the phenomena was named the Mandela effect, because it was most notably seen at that time. Nelson Mandela, South African leader, who was jailed for protesting apartheid. Simply stated there, a lot more to it than that. But nonetheless, it's called the Mandela effect. It plays out in lots of different things. There are some big brand names that some of us remember. The logos looked a certain way, or their slogan was a certain way, and then the other half of the population knows it in a different way, right? The Queen song, "We Are the Champions," is one of those that people often cite, where I'm 58. I was born in 1967. So when this song came out when I was a teenager, the song would go, "We are the champions, we are the champions." And then they would say at the end, "Of the world." The recordings aren't like that anymore. A bunch of the population doesn't even know that version of the song, yet there are a lot of people, especially Gen Xers that were around when the album came out, that remember it differently. So that's just yet another example of the Mandela effect that can take play for all of us. And it's all evidence of our multidimensionality. So what that means is that just like in the first quality that Spirit just shared with us, there's so much now more layering of different realities, timelines, energies coming in, dropping in. This is where we are in the process. That these are some of the outcomes of what people are experiencing: time slips, time standing still, Mandela effects. I'll give you two examples of Mandela effects that I experienced this week. One is the calendar, right? So both a colleague, a friend, and I remember distinctly having a discussion about putting an appointment on the calendar. And I couldn't find it on my calendar. And so, but like I swore it was there, but it just wasn't for whatever reason. So that would be one small. And she had it on hers, but I didn't have it on mine. And we work off of the same invites, and I'm not somebody that goes through and deletes a lot on my calendar. So anyway, it was a Mandela effect experience. The second one is there's yes, I admit I watch reels on all kinds of socials, sometimes for entertainment. And there is a couple that I like to follow, and I've been watching them for a couple of years. They are from different cultures and different countries, and they do funny reels comparing kind of different approaches to life things, different languaging sometimes, but also just different approaches. Been watching them for a couple of years. Well, this week, when I caught a reel from one of them, the man in this was the same, but he has a completely different wife doing the same content. It is not the same woman with different colored hair. I've gone back and looked at it a lot. This new version with his brown-haired wife, where he used to have a blonde wife, and they would present these things. And again, she looks completely different than the first. So it's just fascinating. And I know, this is a Mandela effect experience where whatever version of that couple that I have been watching on Reels previously like no longer exists, and there's this other version of it. So I share these with you in case you're wondering about Mandela effect and how it might come into play in your own life. So I share the anecdotes with you for that reason. So as Spirit has stated, we're all becoming more multidimensional and experiencing it, whether we realize it or not, through things like time slips and Mandela effect. The coping approach for this, number two coping approach, ground, note the experience. Stay out of trying to logic your way out of this, and also stay out of gaslighting yourself either. So don't be hard on yourself and think, I must have deleted that calendar invite. I must be remembering this wrong. I must be nuts. No, don't go there. Ground in, note the experience, whether that's in a journal, whether that's on your phone, however it is that you like to take note of your spiritual and energetic and multidimensional experiences. Take note of it and just keep it moving. You can analyze it later, but don't spend any time gaslighting yourself or trying to logic your way out of it. That's not going to go very well, and you probably will not come up with logic to explain it. So bring yourself into the present, ground again, note the experience, and then move on with your day. Third quality of this second half of December energy. There is a richness to the quickening energy of the latter half of December. Spirit speaks of the capacity to feel almost drunken with delight as we feel into and expand into the possibilities and delight in these and in these joyful feelings. It's a bit like they gave the analogy of an enticing drink. I do consume dairy, so I like eggnog, I like milkshake. So for me, it was an example of this delicious milkshake being poured, an eggnog milkshake. Um, when you're watching this enticing drink being poured and placed in front of you, there's this urge to want to savor it and consume it and all of the things that might come along with that for you. Spirit saying, don't consume that yet. Instead, hold yourselves in the richness of the anticipation of it. So it's spirit working with us to try to train ourselves to broaden our capacity for these big and joyful energies that are coming in. And they're encouraging us to sit, wait, don't drink that enticing drink yet. For me, that eggnog milkshake. That's because they're working to help us kind of train our energetic bandwidth and our capacity for energetic bandwidth, which we need all the help we can at this time. So, the coping approach, this third coping approach that Spirit offers in response to this third quality of the energy for the second half of December 2025, is Spirit really recommends that we allow this richness of energy to fuel our dreams, quite literally. So, the best times to either program or reprogram our brains, and specifically our subconscious or unconscious brains, are in either the hypnagogic state when we're going to sleep or the hypnopompic state when we're rising. Spirit's coping approach is for the hypnagogic state. So, it's as we're going to sleep. So, Spirit is encouraging us that as we're falling asleep, to work with this hypnagogic state, meaning with the awareness, knowing that this is the best time to kind of imbue our dreams or our nighttime experiences with this rich state, they're encouraging us to allow the richness of this energy to be where we allow ourselves to swim. So it mentally as we're falling asleep, and perhaps if you can sort of feel into how that would feel, um, that would make sense. And I know this is sounding a little abstract. So if you can, like for instance, I give the example of an eggnog milkshake that works for me. So the way that I would use that example in the coping strategy that Spirit's offering us is as I'm falling asleep at night, I would imagine watching that milkshake being poured and feeling into all of the exciting feelings and anticipation of drinking it. I would be thinking about that experience and feeling into those energies as I'm falling asleep at night. Right. So I get into bed, maybe I run through a checklist of what's on for tomorrow. Maybe I kind of like think through some gratitudes for the day and then put them aside. And then as I'm close to sleep, that's when I start thinking about the richness of this eggnog milkshake. And so I'm using the example that I shared with you guys about a rich drink being poured that's enticing to you, but perhaps for you, it's a whole different experience. It doesn't involve drinking something, whatever it is that engenders that richness quality or encapsulates that richness quality of this energy for you is for you to work with, right? So maybe that is the feeling of finishing a race, right? Or maybe that is when you're almost there with some kind of a goal and you can really connect to that feeling. So it could take lots of different forms for you to kind of bring this into your dream state. And that's the guidance. Spirit's encouraging us to really feel into that richness of that energy so that we can stretch that out and expand that within us as we're falling asleep, because that's going to go into our unconscious brain and help recreate things and reprogram things in glorious and beautiful ways that will then pave the way for whatever changes we are experiencing or creating in the future. All right. The other thing that I would say about this is imagine that you're swimming in the richness of this energy as you're falling asleep. And so, yeah, also I'm a swimmer, so I love that analogy. But when I say swimming, I mean all of the ways that you can imagine kind of being bathed in the energy and just having it flow all over you and move through you and you moving through it in a really synchronistic way, a symbiotic way that feels like it fuels you. That will fuel your dreams. And that is the guidance that Spirit offers for how to work with this third quality of energy. You want to also think expansive and present tense. You want to think expansive and present tense things as you do so, right? So perhaps as you're swimming, I'm swimming through this eggnog milkshake. I'm thinking this tastes so good. I like to swim through it. It feels as good as it does going down my throat. And I'm sort of stating it and thinking about it in the present tense positively. I'm not necessarily lying in bed saying it out loud. I'm speaking it out loud for you guys to exemplify it for you. So swim in that rich and nourishing energy, that lush energy as best you can. All right. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Hold on and hang on and ground in. We are going to make it through these tremendous changes on the planet at this time. I wish you all wonderful Decembers. And I hope that this energy update for the second half of December supports you. And I'll be back for the next one ahead of January. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.